Okay, so we will continue in English, and in some questions I will be asking them in Greek as well when needed. So please take your headphones if you would like the translation. Following up from the previous conversation, from the previous very interesting discussion, we will discuss about the renewable race, scaling race investments, storage, and the financial equation of the green transition, following up on the, as I said, the morning's discussions. So it's an honor that we have with us Mr. Sotiris Kapellos, the head of Hellenic Renewables. I will start with you with the first question. As a key player in the Greek renewable sector, can you share with us the strategic priorities and the long-term vision that the company, your group, has in pursuing this green energy transition in this evolving energy landscape?
Thank you very much, Costa, and for the invitation in this event. I will say a few words about our strategy in renewables. Hellenic Renewables is a very important pillar of Hellenic Energy Group. It is, I mean, the group has set a target of decreasing 50% the CO2 footprint, the carbon footprint. So Hellenic Renewables is one of the most important pillars in order to achieve this target. So we have set a target of 1 gigawatt in operation in the end of 2026. We have already 500 megawatt in operation, out of which 100 wind and 400 megawatt PV. And we have already secured another 500 megawatt for the target of 1 gigawatt in the end of 2026. We are developing projects in Greece, Cyprus, Romania, and very soon we hope that we will launch a new, we will enter Bulgaria. So we are active in all the southeast region. The target is to have a diversification in the technologies, wind, PV, and batteries. We want to increase the wind part of the contribution of projects, especially outside Greece, Romania, and hopefully Bulgaria. And we want to also to develop, and we want to have a very play a strategic role in the development of batteries. We already have 100 megawatt under construction in our complex in Northern Greece refinery, and we have also, which was won in the last auction, and we have another 50 megawatt project in Florina that was won in the third auction. So the challenges are there. I believe we're going to discuss that afterwards. And we think that by having a diversification of technologies, routes to the market, and spread over the wider geography, you can cope with those challenges.
Thank you, Mr. Kapellos. I will now move to Mr. Panagiotou from Volton. You are a supplier of electricity here in the Greek market. We have discussed even in the previous panel about some inefficiencies that we do see. You're not vertically integrated in the sense that you do not have generation of various forms, but this is something that you can tell us more about. But we have seen unresolved issues with network loss cost, balancing market surcharges, a number of things that effectively, in the end of the supply chain, affect the consumer. So what would really need the country in terms of reforms to enable competition and protect consumers now that we enter in this era of dynamic pricing that has also been discussed?
Good morning. I would firstly like to thank the organizers for the invitations and congratulate them for this event. Now, actually, Volton has a number of power plants, renewables, and participates in a new project with a 10% in a in a new CCGT. But in general, the inefficiencies you mentioned, and as already mentioned in the previous panel and yesterday, are a great problem, obstacle for our market, for the retail market. Because the consumer actually, the consumers are confused about their bills. We receive a bill, we see a supply charge. This price is far from the wholesale market price, and many hidden parts, charges, are included in there. So the proposals are the following. We need a clear, stable, concrete regulatory framework so that every part knows in advance how the clearing is going to be done in all markets, and in general everybody have all information needed. Secondly, regarding those charges, we talked about, you mentioned balancing market surprises. We have the distribution network losses costs. We heard before that there was a surprise 1 year ago when we all realized that back then in 2022, the additional cost for the network losses was much higher. Actually, this cost had doubled from 2013 to 2022. And of course, in Greece, network losses are the highest in comparison to other European Union countries. So the solution is a separation of the costs so that each category depicts the source of this cost. For example, regarding balancing market costs, there are some costs that must be paid, of course, by suppliers, as by producers because of imbalances. But there are other costs, as for example, the costs that are born from the activity, from the system operation in order to offer distinct heating. So this comes from expensive units. They're not included in the market schedule, and afterwards they're asked to produce. Of course, they have higher costs, and there are additional amounts which must be paid at first from the suppliers and then from the consumers. So these operations are important. And one more thing, operators should take over the costs for which they are responsible, so they are incentivized to reduce them. If HEDNO has a great incentive to reduce network losses, then this will be done, this will be achieved. And then the final cost for the final consumers will be decreased. So, to sum up, we need a stable, transparent regulatory framework. Any changes must be done carefully after consultation with the necessary preparation. Costs must be transparent and separated, and operators must take over their responsibilities and their costs.
That was very clear, and thank you for this. I will move a little bit now from the Greek reality to the broader region, and more in particular in Romania. We have with us Ms. Mihaela Nerges. From a regulatory and legal standpoint of view, what do you think are the biggest obstacles you see today for building solar or storage projects in countries in Southeast Europe, broadly in Southeast Europe, but if you can bring some examples from Romania, and how do you see also this interaction between our countries, and what you have as similarities or things that we can learn from each other, I guess? Perfect.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure and honor to be here today. Romania has its own obstacles, some of which are not actually typical to Romania, are similar to obstacles faced also by other European countries. I would start, I think, with grid capacity, limited grid capacity, and this is not a problem specific to Romania. The grid was not designed for the kind of investments that the member states need in order to reach the EU targets. There are a lot of projects that rely on important reinforcement works that need to be done by the grid operators in general, and more specifically by Transelectrica, and Transelectrica, which is a Romanian TSO. And we can see that TSO updates every 2 years its investment plan, its development plan, and we can see that every 2 years there are delays in implementing the reinforcement works, and this severely impacts the projects that rely on the respective reinforcements to be made. Also, I think there is a problem with the fact, coming from the fact that there is no clear visibility on what are the reinforcement actually needed in order to implement the projects, because the Romanian grid connection process is based on a first come, first serve principle, and any new grid connection application is being processed and is being assessed based on the assumption that all the previous projects are going to be actually implemented. And now we currently have more than 60 giga of projects in the system under various stages of development, but we know from the experience of the first wave that only few of these projects are actually going to be implemented. In the first wave of renewables, from 3 giga of projects, we only saw implemented 3 mega of projects, 30 giga, sorry, only 3 giga. And the problem is that currently, if you check the grid connection permits, they present more harsh reality and harsher grid connection conditions that actually are going to be in reality. And the problem is that you cannot update to the new realities. We have embedded in our legislation mechanism whereby if projects are not progressing, are not advancing, they are expiring and they are removed from the system. However, according to our legislation, you cannot update your own grid connection permit until your project is completed. So basically, this means that you actually need to take a decision to invest, and you need to take a decision as a bank to finance a project without having very clear visibility on the actual grid connection conditions that you are going to benefit of. So I would say that the grid capacity is one of the biggest problems that we have for building a new project. Another one is related to, comes from a specificity of Romania. We have currently a very illiquid PPA market, and this also comes from the fact that in Romania PPAs were banned for more than 10 years. This comes from some very bad PPAs at very low prices concluded by state-owned hydropower producers. And because of Romania, the Romanian state couldn't manage this internally as a sole shareholder of this sole power producer, it basically prohibited PPAs for the entire market. This severely affected the Romanian market. This severely affected the new investments, because it's very difficult to invest in new power plants without being able to conclude PPAs under the development stage to prove financing banks that you have stable cash flow. And that's why we also have a very low knowledge and know-how regarding PPAs. PPA market has just starting to become a market, actually, because we didn't have one. So far, only 25 PPAs were announced, both physical and virtual, mostly virtual than physical. But it's still at early stage, and this affects the possibility to access financing for the project. This is also connected to guarantees of origin. In Romania, we don't have yet a market of guarantees of origin, and we know that this market is essential in order to attract corporate buyers in entering into this PPAs in order to meet their ESG criteria. In order to have a market of guarantees of origin, Romania needs to become a member of Association of Issuing Bodies. It plans to do that. It established a roadmap. Normally it should become a full member with full rights by the end of next year, and we should be able to have a full market of guarantees of origin starting 2027. But until then, the guarantees of origin can be transferred only together with the electricity. They cannot be transferred under virtual PPAs, so that limits a lot the possibility of entering into PPAs. Okay. And maybe just another last point, another obstacle that I see, it's directly related to storage, because we heard in the earlier panel that storage is essential for curtailment. Indeed, there is a very high interest in Romania for storage investments, for standalone storage investment. However, the legislation is still early stage. We had our energy law was amended late last year, inserting, qualifying and regulating the operator of storage activity and the storage activity as a standalone activity, because until then it was viewed, the storage operator were viewed as producer when injecting into the grid and as a consumer when charging from the grid. And this severely impacted the business model because it was subject to double taxation and subject to all the contributions and taxes that are applicable to consumers. So our energy law was amended last year, solving this principle. However, when we started to actually negotiate this kind of best optimization agreement, we realized that in practice, the authorities do not yet apply these principles because the secondary legislation adopted by our energy regulatory authority is still missing. So although we have primary legislation, we are still blocked at the level of secondary legislation, which severely impacts the business model for the BES and the possibility to access financing.
But you see things moving also to the right direction on this front. I mean, this is something that you are working on.
Yeah, it's moving in the right direction. The storage, for example, it's really a key topic for both the Ministry of Energy and for the Energy Regulatory Authority. I'm also, apart from being a lawyer, I'm also a member of the board of directors of the Romanian Photovoltaic Industry Association. So I'm very much involved in the discussion with the authorities, trying to move legislation forward, trying to solve some issues that we see from our activity. And I can see a very much flexibility and openness from the authorities to solve all these issues, and especially to improve investment in storage. There are some grants to be issued shortly by the Ministry of Energy for investment of grants. So I'm positive that this problem will be solved shortly.
Thank you, Michaela. Now we'll move more to another region of the world. I'll move to Asia. From the APEC Sustainable Energy Center in China, Mr. Stevan Defila. Can you tell us about the lessons that you see if Europe can learn from Asia's large-scale clean energy rollouts, particularly in financing storage and transmission upgrades?
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank for the invitation you gave to me. I'm very happy each time to speak in Athens. Last time was in 2014 at the informal energy ministerial meeting held under the Greek EU presidency here in Athens, so I'm very happy to come back. I'm not a typical Chinese, as you see. So, yes, APEC, maybe I should say one word before about what is APEC. APEC stands for Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. We are a post-Cold War organization. We have been created, that means after the 90s, and like together with the WTO and the internet and all such similar organizations. And we now are impacted by the deglobalization, which is going on at a very rapid pace. So the size of APEC is between 40 and 60% of the world, depending on whether you look at population or economics around 60, the population is around 40, so we are a little bit wealthier than the average global population. Also, the APEC has two energy goals, two aspirational energy goals, which are valid for the whole of APEC. That is one to reduce energy intensity by 45% until 2035. That is well on track. We are going to do that. And the other one, which was more difficult, dates from 2014, and that is to double the share of renewable energy in the final energy consumption. And that was long time more difficult, but now in recent times there has been so much progress that this goal now seems attainable to have by 2030. So that's for the general context. Maybe also I'm representing APSEC. APSEC is the APEC Sustainable Energy Center, and we are in Tianjin. APEC is in Singapore. We are one of two energy research centers. One of, as I said, is in Tianjin, and the other one is in Japan. So we are focusing on sustainable energy. That's our particularity. So what lessons can Europe take from Asia? Well, you see, I think one of the things is to take note of the Asian proportions. Just to give you an example, you may never have heard of Tianjin. Tianjin is a city in China. The population of Tianjin is 15 million. That is 1.5 times the population of Greece. The size of Tianjin is 12,000 square kilometers, which is about 1.5 times the size of Crete. So you can see the proportions. It's very different, and it's very different to infer from one type of settlement to the other. What should you do? Yes, to take note of this important difference is important. And also one thing which I have taken note of since I started work in APSEC in 2018 is that actually the Asia-Pacific region is a kind of a hot spot of geological and environmental disasters, of atmospheric disasters. We have more typhoons and tropical windstorms than anywhere else. We have more earthquakes and tsunamis than anywhere else. And one of the tasks of our region is to protect the population together from such risks. So one of the lessons which I should say is that we need to foster, to combine strong statehood with a strong economy. And if I say strong economy, it means an economy, and that is relevant for the topic which we are talking about, which can use to the maximum the learning curves which diminish the prices. If we look prices for photovoltaics and for batteries, they have been going down all the time since many decades. And we expect this to continue in spite of some adverse effects happening. So this is what I say with strong economy. And we should combine this with a strong state or strong statehood. That is not only the nation state, that is state at all levels, including in Europe it would be the EU, it would even be the UN, it would be the cities, the regions. They all should have their functions and should be strong. That is, we should not follow the American example of now, which we don't think is a very good one. So I give you an example. The cities, as an example, should be empowered to make auctions and tenders for capacity. What is it, either production or storage, for diminishing the price. And this, of course, in Europe you have two objectives which you want to have. You have the objective of diminishing costs and getting energy transition done on one hand side, and the other hand side is to set up a national industry. And that is two objectives which are difficult to reconcile. So in this sense here, I would advise to favor the lower cost. So the cost should be lower, and this should be done by international tendering, which is internationally competitive, like it is being done, for instance, in the Gulf states, has been done for solar energy in the past decades, where the prices have also been come down. I think this is very important, and Europe should focus on complementary areas like the services which are needed to install and to maintain and to keep functioning and maybe to evolve and to adapt the structures, because when I was looking for an electrician the other day here in Greece, I was being told that there is a manpower shortage. So this is the kind which should not happen. you should have enough skills, enough services which are ready available to provide the services which go with the installation of all this. So this is the first kind of lesson I want to say. The second one is that yes, should better measure the green economy, because Europe and China have both created the taxonomies of green economies, in both places that played an important role, but that should be complemented by measuring the value added and the employment of the green sectors as they are defined in the taxonomies. And if you look worldwide, there is no data about this almost in any country, so that is a general problem, so that we can see the benefits coming from the energy transition. And so the third example, I would say, is watching the density of our settlements. As I said, in Tianjin, we are a very dense population. So there is a UN document which is called UN Habitat's 5 Principles, the Strategy of Sustainable Neighborhood. It dates from 2015, and it states that the optimal density of population for settlements should be between 15 and 60,000 per square kilometer. Now, if you want to foster, to develop renewable energy, then you should keep to the 15,000 rather than the 60. 60 is too high. In Asia, we have city centers, sometimes they have up to 120,000 people per square kilometer. And you cannot create sufficient energy security with such high densities, population densities. So that will be a big challenge. But what we recommend actually is that if you have 15,000 people per square kilometer density, then you can have sufficient. You can introduce actually another objective, a planning objective for cities to make reserve about 30% of the constructed, the built-up area of the cities for photovoltaics. So this is an objective which cities should be able to fulfill in the long term. I have one fourth lesson which I want to tell. That is yes, disaster resilience. I have been telling that already because the APEC region is actually prone to a lot of disasters, and this has led actually many APEC countries to make integrated planning. And we have actually in our center published a report on combining disaster resilience with sustainability, specific report on this. And there is an important document which is called the UN Disaster Resilience Scorecard for Cities, dates from 2017, and it gives the possibility to cities to increase the feeling that, to diminish, let's say, the feeling of insecurity which we all have, and to create networks, local networks, improve local resilience, including for energy, including for all types of problems which we have, crime rates or whatever, so that people are more participating in this. And these is a catalog with about 120 different measures which can be taken. So that is sort of these 4 lessons are the ones which I hope you have understood some of them.
There are a couple of things that cannot easily apply to Europe, as for example, national tenders that you mentioned earlier that we see in the Middle East, or the density of the population in certain cities may not be such an issue, I guess, for some of the European countries. But it was very interesting perspective to see how other countries in Asia, other areas of the world are actually thinking of a number of the points that we're discussing here. I will switch now into Greek to ask a question to Mr. Mitsiolidis. Κύριε Μητσιολίδη, εκπροσωπείτε την Green Line Energy ως ιδιώτης επενδυτής στον χώρο των ανανεώσιμων πηγών ενέργειας, από τους μεγαλύτερους, θα έλεγα, εδώ στον ελληνικό χώρο. Θα ήθελα να μας πείτε και εσείς τη δικιά σας την άποψη, με γνώμονα την αυξημένη διείσδυση των φωτοβολταϊκών, κυρίως όπως αναφέρθηκε πριν και σήμερα και χθες στα πλαίσια του συνεδρίου. Πώς βλέπετε να κινούνται τα επόμενα έτη επενδύσεις σε αντίστοιχα έργα, όχι μόνο φωτοβολταϊκών, αλλά πιθανώς και αποθήκευσης, αν έχετε και εσείς πλάνα για αυτό, και πώς βλέπετε την αγορά.
Ευχαριστώ για την ερώτηση. Η εταιρεία μας, η Green Line, δραστηριοποιείται στον χώρο της ενέργειας, των φωτοβολταϊκών και του βιαερίου από το 2010. Και θα έλεγα ότι και μέχρι σήμερα δεν πάει να μας εκπλήσει η αγορά με ευχάριστα ή δυσάρεστα, και αυτή τη φορά μάλλον ευχάριστα. Ο χώρος των φωτοβολταϊκών έχει υποστεί τους τελευταίους 18 μήνες μια μεγάλη πτώση των τιμών κατασκευής, το κόστος κατασκευής, με αποτέλεσμα αυτό το κόστος να διαμορφώνει τελείως μια διαφορετική κατάσταση. Και δύο σημαντικά πράγματα με τα οποία παίζουν ρόλο τεράστιο είναι ότι η εγχώρια συμμετοχή στο κόστος κατασκευής έχει φτάσει πλέον στο 60%, που καμία άλλη επένδυση δεν μπορεί να το δώσει αυτό το πράγμα. Και επιπλέον έχουμε και το ζήτημα ότι με την αποθήκευση μπορεί να συνδυαστεί και η πτώση του μόνο φυσικά, εντός παρενθέσεως τώρα, το κόστος κατασκευής των μπαταριών, της αποθήκευσης, μπορεί να κάνει ένα καταπληκτικό συνδυασμό και να μειώσει και να συμμετάσχει στο μείγμα με πάρα πολύ σωστό τρόπο. Η εταιρεία μας δραστηριοποιείται στον χώρο αυτό και στους δύο τομείς, και στην κατασκευή φωτοβολταϊκών και μπαταριών, και ελπίζουμε ότι και το κράτος θα συμμετάσχει σωστά στον τομέα αυτό. Γιατί το ενεργειακό μείγμα πρέπει να είναι σωστό, δηλαδή θα πρέπει να υπερισχύσει τα φωτοβολταϊκά έναντι των ανεμογεννητριών, και το λέω αυτό γιατί υπάρχει ένα πολύ σοβαρό θέμα με τις ανεμογεννήτριες, ότι παράγουν ρεύμα τον καιρό που δεν χρειάζεται, δηλαδή το χειμώνα. 2 μέρες είναι το χειμώνα, 1 μέρος είναι το καλοκαίρι. Αυτό στο ενεργειακό μείγμα μπορεί να φέρει τεράστια αναστάτωση. Και μπορεί να φέρει και τεράστια αναστάτωση στις περικοπές, διότι εάν συνεχιστεί η διείσδυση των ανεμογεννητριών στο μείγμα, με όρους καλοκαιριού, θα φτάσουμε στο σημείο να έχουμε περικοπές τεράστιες στο χειμώνα στα φωτοβολταϊκά. Αυτά πρέπει να τα λάβει υπόψη την πολιτεία, διότι οι αλλαγές είναι γρήγορες, εντυπωσιακά γρήγορες θα έλεγα, και να γίνει αυτό που πρέπει να γίνει.
Δίνεται μια ενδιαφέρουσα διάσταση στο θέμα, γιατί έχει να κάνει και γενικά με το συνδυασμό των τεχνολογιών. Ναι. Αυτό που θα έλεγε κανείς, ίσως αν πάρουμε το παράδειγμα π.χ. της Μεγάλης Βρετανίας, είναι ότι έχουμε προτιμούν να είναι technology agnostic, όπως λένε, δηλαδή να μην έχουν κάποια προτίμηση σε κάποια τεχνολογία, αλλά σε κάθε περίπτωση η αγορά να βρει το δρόμο της, και σίγουρα σε συνδυασμό με την αποθήκευση που είπατε πολύ σωστά πριν, νομίζω ότι αυτό θα μπορέσει να βοηθήσει την αγορά. Και μας δώσατε και μια πολύ θετική διάσταση όσον αφορά και τις επενδύσεις στα φωτοβολταϊκά, γιατί ακούμε πολλά για το πώς μπορεί να εξελιχθούν εμπορικά οι τιμές τους και πώς θα έχουμε περικοπές ή οτιδήποτε, αλλά σίγουρα το κόστος τους για την κατασκευή έχει πέσει πάρα πολύ και βοηθάει και αυτό γενικά στο συνολικό αποτέλεσμα της επένδυσης γενικότερα στο χώρο. I will move with a question now to every panelist. Εκτός και αν θέλετε να προσθέσετε κάτι, κύριε Μητσολίδη, σε αυτό.
Όχι, αν θέλετε κάποια άλλη ερώτηση, ευχαριστώ.
Να ξεκινήσω από εσάς, λοιπόν. Τι πιστεύετε, ποια είναι η μεγαλύτερη επενδυτική ευκαιρία ή εμπόδιο που μπορεί να έχουμε αυτή τη στιγμή με αυτή την επιτάχυνση των ανανεώσιμων πηγών ενέργειας στην αγορά?
Το μεγαλύτερο πρόβλημα είναι οι περικοπές. Και εδώ το κράτος πρέπει να κινηθεί πάρα πολύ γρήγορα. Το περιβάλλον είναι εξαιρετικά δυναμικό. Πολύ δυναμικό. Δηλαδή, ό,τι ίσχυε πριν από ένα χρόνο δεν ισχύει σήμερα. Δηλαδή, η πτώση των τιμών και στις μπαταρίες και στα φωτοβολταϊκά είναι κάτι που πρέπει η πολιτεία να το λάβει σοβαρά υπόψη. Διότι βελτιώνει και το ισοζύγιο τροχιών συναλλαγών. Βελτιώνει ότι όταν αυτό ολοκληρωθεί, η ενεργειακή μετάβαση, το ισοζύγιο εξωτερικών συναλλαγών θα έχει μειωθεί απίστευτα. Δηλαδή, είναι ένας τρόπος να διορθώσει την οικονομία η χώρα. Συνεπώς, πρέπει να κινηθεί γρήγορα. Αυτό είναι το σημαντικό.
Fast acceleration or fast response from the governance perspective is definitely one thing in order to address these new challenges. Mr. Capello, if I move now to you about the same question, what do you see as the biggest opportunity or obstacle in this acceleration of the RES investments in this market?
When we are talking about investments, there are two basic ingredients. One thing is the cost of investment. The second thing is the income of the investment. So let's go through each of the technologies and see what is the outlook of the cost of investment. Photovoltaics, I think they have stabilized their cost of investment. We are in photovoltaic panels. The cost of the photovoltaic panels is we have reached a minimum. Maybe they are going to be a bit higher, but I think the total cost of investment is going to remain more or less the same in the next period. Wind investments, I would say they are a bit higher than previously, but okay, more or less they have a constant, I mean, they have stabilized. Batteries cost, we should expect to go lower. I think the cost is still is high, is still higher than it should, where it should be, and I will say why it is higher and why we think it's higher. So this is what has to do with the investment cost, but in terms of the technologies, what is going higher is the cost of connection. Connection costs are higher compared to the previous years because there is lack of infrastructure, and we heard that from Mrs. Narges, and we see the same thing in Greece, in Cyprus, in all the countries that we are active. So the cost of investment the cost of connection is becoming higher because there is no infrastructure. So this should be taken into consideration in the investment cost. Now, if we go to the other side to the income, we know that there is a trend towards electrification in all European countries, but this electrification increase is lower than it should be. So, for instance, for Greece, we should not expect high increase of the consumption of the electricity till 2030, and the forecasts show us that there will be a higher pace of electrification after 2030. So we should not expect high increase of the demand of electricity. And the other parameter that has to do with the income is the prices. So again, the forecast of the prices for photovoltaics and for wind capture prices are going down, not in a very high pace, but they are going down and expected to go further down towards the next years. So this is something that should be taken into consideration. And also, as it has been mentioned by Mr. Mitsoli, we have also curtailments, which last year it has been at the level of 3.5% in Greece, but it was not uniformly distributed to the producers. The producers of high voltage, they had curtailments up to 10%. So this year we see higher curtailments. There is a better distribution of the curtailments because the smaller projects have also been curtailed now. But still, we see because of the new installed capacity that has been introduced in 2020, which has been 2 gigawatt and mainly photovoltaics, curtailments are increasing. So curtailments, it is a risk, not only mainly in Greece, but we should expect curtailments in Romania and then in Bulgaria. In Cyprus, the curtailments are immense. They are very high. Last year it was 25%, and this year we see that it will be more than 30% the whole year. Okay, so the solution is batteries, and so in terms of the outlook, if somebody would like to enter the market or be in the market, battery is something which is new. We should expect that battery will be for medium term a good investment because the DAM spread is 100 euro per megawatt hour, and as more photovoltaics are being introduced in the market, this spread is going to become bigger. So batteries, it is an opportunity. Just from the arbitrage part. If we also take into consideration the balancing contribution, we should expect additional income. So batteries is an opportunity, medium term, and also photovoltaics along with batteries, collocated batteries, so hybrid projects. We should not think of a photovoltaic investment without a battery, behind the meter battery right now. Now, in closing, as for the future, there will be opportunities. Everybody has been in the previous years has been talking about hydrogen. Yes, hydrogen it is an opportunity, but it's not for something for tomorrow. We should expect hydrogen investments and a market, hydrogen market, in the next 5 to 10 years. So this is what we could see in terms of the outlook of the market of renewables plus storage.
Thank you for this holistic approach. I would now move to, again, the supplier's perspective. If we can have Mr. Panagiotou give us his view about the obstacles, opportunities. How do you see this evolving?
Like I said, the clear regulatory framework is very important. So if we have gaps in it, that acts as an obstacle. And we have seen it in many fields, because it affects also financing in projects. Of course, it affects the revenues, future revenues, and up to a great extent, costs. So that can be an obstacle, bringing challenges, including curtailments and other issues. But if we learn from our mistakes and move to the next day more carefully, plan the whole framework and then implement it, I think that that creates a ground for opportunities, which, along with other facts, such as the new interconnections that will come, not only with European countries, but even with countries outside Europe, may turn Greece to an energy hub, actually really an energy producer and exporter. So there seems to be a great opportunity, exploiting storage systems, production, of course, our sun and everything, but as a prerequisite with the correct framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michaela, what is your view? I mean, we heard about legislation, regulatory issues that could become an obstacle, but if we surpass all of those, what do you see as opportunities also in the market?
Yes, I think putting aside the obstacles I mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities on Romanian market. And one of it could be that the permitting process in Romania is much more efficient and shorter than in other countries. And this is something that I'm constantly told by investors that have operations in other jurisdictions. So the process was very much improved during the last years. The legislation was constantly improved, both on the construction permitting side as well and on the grid connection side. The authorities were very open to the proposals coming from the Energy Association, so we can see actual results in the market. It's mostly the problem that sometimes authorities do not always observe the timeline set out in the law, but again, also for this point, very recently a new law was passed setting out a tacit approval, meaning that if authorities do not respond in the mandatory timeline, the respective permit is deemed to be tacitly approved. So I think this is a very good opportunity for Romanian renewable energy market. Another point is that we have, starting from last year, a CFD, a contract from difference scheme, and this complements very well the PPA market that is only developing, as I mentioned a bit earlier. We have 5 giga of PV and wind projects that are subject to this CFD scheme. We had the first auction last year, a very successful one, And now the second auction was just launched. Personally, when I saw the CFD contract and legislation, as a lawyer, I was a bit concerned of a few principles that could entail some uncertainties for investors and for banks. But the outcome after the assessment of this scheme by financing bank is that actually the banks have a very positive outlook on the CFD scheme, and the projects that were successful in the first auction are very much favored by banks to be financed. So I think this is a very good opportunity that we have in Romania. And I'm sure that it will support a lot seeing these 5 giga projects implemented shortly.
Yeah, this is one of the good practices. Was mentioned also by Mr. Kapros earlier about the CFD mechanism in various European countries and how this could also be implemented in Greece, as we've seen it in Romania being successful for the past year or so. Last, I will go to Mr. De Fila again to give us his view on the various challenges and perhaps opportunities that he sees in this kind of market environment.
Yes, yes. Yes, of course, the question whether the kind of global environment we have now is going to accelerate or decelerate the development for renewables is a very difficult question, but I will give you some hints. We have published just before November last year, we have published our study about about the local decarbonization in the province of North Sulawesi. But in that framework, we have made global scenarios because we wanted to give cities the possibility to easily assess whether the targets they take at city level for city planning are high or low compared to the global evolution. So we wanted to see the global evolution, and we have conceived methodologies which are simple and which gives good results. So we have actually 2 scenarios. One is the sustainable energy scenario, and one is an unsustainable one. That's not a big surprise. What has surprised us, however, is that the sustainable energy scenario is the dominating one, except if you have bulk resistance within the system, that is barriers coming up. And it is because of barriers that we don't reach targets, and not because of because of other factors. So that means the technological factors, the economic factors are all pointing towards more renewable, renewable becoming cheaper and cheaper in the sense that the renewable in next 5 years, globally speaking, in most areas of the world, are going to be the cheapest energy for utility scale. That is, even renewables combined with 12-hour storage, day-night storage, are going to be the cheapest one for the cheapest source for utility scale energy tendered, in open competitive tenders. And this is so strong that all the other factors which we have taken in afterwards are simply factors of showing the resistance of whoever is acting against the energy transition, and can of course break or can of course change the success of the sustainable energy scenario. So to make it clear, the world can be an energy can be sustainable in the sense that we can go to practically 100% renewable energy by 2050. That is realistic technologically, but the resistance comes from within the system, not from that is the economic system, political systems, and that is a little bit what we are also observing now. So to know which one of the both scenarios are becoming reality is too early to say, but this is the determining factors which are determining for these 2 scenarios.
It seems that we have one direction, which is to continue with the green energy transition, as you say, with its challenges, we understand, and differences around the world. But, you know, it was quite interesting in terms of the way that you put subjects on the table. Κύριε Μητσολίδη, ένα τελευταίο σχόλιο και από εσάς, αν έχετε σε σχέση με αυτό που συζητήσαμε σχετικά με τις προκλήσεις, για να κλείσουμε το πάνελ.
τοποθέτηση του κυρίου Καπέλου ήταν πραγματικά πολύ σωστή για την αποθήκευση ενέργειας. Ωστόσο, όμως, η χώρα έχει τεράστιες δοκιμάσεις στην κατανάλωση μεταξύ χειμώνα και καλοκαιριού. Δηλαδή, το χειμώνα είμαστε 35 με 40% και το καλοκαίρι φυσικά είναι στο πικ. Εδώ υπάρχει και ένα ζήτημα ότι θα κάνουμε αποθήκευση και δεν θα μπορούμε να τη χρησιμοποιήσουμε πουθενά. Διότι το να αποθηκεύσεις ενέργεια που παράγεται και να μην μπορείς να τη χρησιμοποιήσεις είναι πραγματικά ένα τρομερό λάθος. Επομένως, ξανάρχομαι στο προηγούμενο ζήτημα ότι το κράτος πρέπει να προσέξει πάρα πολύ καλά το ενεργειακό μείγμα και φυσικά να προσέξει και τις διασυνδέσεις που είπε ο άλλος ο κυρίος, τις διασυνδέσεις με τα άλλα κράτη, διότι και αυτή μπορεί να εκτονώσει το πρόβλημά μας που έχουμε το χειμώνα. Δηλαδή, για παράδειγμα, η Γερμανία χρειάζεται ενέργεια το χειμώνα. Το καλοκαίρι είναι εδώ. Λοιπόν, αυτό είναι κάτι το οποίο μπορεί να λύσει αυτή την εξίσωση μόνο οι κρατικές διασυνδέσεις. Λοιπόν, και πρέπει να προστατευτούν, διότι το να κάνουμε επιχειρηματικές προσπάθειες, οι οποίες θα είναι καταδικασμένες με ζημίες, πραγματικά κανείς πρέπει να το προσέξει πολύ.
Τέλεια. Ωραία, σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Είμαστε ακριβώς στο χρόνο μας. We are just right on time, so that we can move to the next panel. And I would like to thank all of the panelists for the very interesting perspective that they brought on the discussion. Thank you.